I'm working on the 24 Honda Pilot Elite today, and I've got two products I was going to show you that we're going to review and install and see which one that we're going to stick with. But the first product I want to show you is the Muscology padded armrest cover that goes right over your factory armrest right there. And the other one is the non-padded version. That's really just a slip cover. More, I would say this is more just for the protection of that console, so you're not really tearing up this factory piece. Because if you do scratch this leather or tear this up, this is going to be a very expensive piece versus a cover, say something like this. So kind of going over, we'll look at these views after I install, but this first cover right here on the padded version, you're looking at maybe about an inch or so of padding right here. And it's got this nice line with the two stitching going right down the center versus the factory style has got stitching here on the two sides. It definitely gives it a more unique look, I think, and it matches that factory interior, especially on this Honda Pilot Elite with the black seats, gray piping, and that grayish white color stitching. So I think that they've done a really good job on that. It's held on up underneath here by these two bungees right here. So that kind of slides over. So if you had to take this back off, it's not like you're doing a permanent installation over that. Here to the back, they've got their logo, which is nice. The stitching around this thing looks really nice. It feels almost like a real leather. Talking about the other cover there, this is just the slip-on cover. Very similar design where they've got the stitching there down the center, got that contour line there, feels almost like a real leather. And even this factory piece might not even be real leather. This may be vinyl or could be molded rubber over the top of that. It's got the similar installation where it's got the bungees that hold it on there. And it's got nice stitch lines where it's not, doesn't look like it was stitched poorly or anything like that. So I've also got two other Muscology products inside this console right here. First one being this, I call it the hidden storage pocket. That's a lot of the times where we keep napkins. Of course, we have kids, so my wife likes to keep a lot of napkins in here. You can't see it, but there's also their tray in here. So if you've got a Pilot, you know how deep this console can be. By the way, there's some more napkins in case you were wondering if we have a lot of napkins. But if you're wondering about the Pilot, you know, you've got this big storage pocket, get their storage tray as well. And it just goes in there, no permanent modifications. Even with this, just held on with tape. So I'm going to install the padded version first. The way I'd installed it was put the logo to the back like that. And again, you're just kind of sliding over those parts and pieces. The only thing I would say right here is yes, once you've got it on, that hidden pocket, if you've got it, it's going to kind of stop you from opening that, but actually it's going to help kind of keep that closed. It's just held closed by magnets. So you can still get to that and you just kind of lift that out of the way and you can get right back to that. So you kind of push it into the place where you see it fits the best. And then now you've got a padded armrest here. And it's much more premium, like I mentioned, about the padding level, especially if you're going to have your arm on here for any period of time, long trips or things like that. It definitely helps out. And it raises that up about an inch or so. So it definitely, if you've got shorter arms, or a lot like me sometimes, I like to drive, and when we used to have shifters right here, kind of have my hand on the shifter. You're not really going to have your hand on the push button shifter here, but it's nice to kind of have your arm elevated right around that area. So I do like that. I think it's a pretty nice thing to install over that armrest. And I believe this is the one my wife is going to want to stick with because it actually adds that additional padding. So that's the way this one looks. I'll take this one off and I'm going to put the other one on for you. So again, how I mentioned, there's no permanent modification here. Simply slip that off, especially too if you scratch this or tear this, you can just put another one on. As opposed to scratching or tearing this, you're buying a whole new door from Honda. Same thing with this cover. You're going to put that logo to the back. Very simple installation. And this is going to be, if you're wanting to just cover this thing up, a little bit more protection on this console armrest here. And the fit on this one's really good too. You can kind of see I've got it kind of pulled into those corners up in here. If you can see that right there on camera, I've got it kind of pulled up into the corners. The same thing this bungee right here is going to be about covering over the edge of this. No big deal though, you can still open and close, and probably helps keep that closed a little bit easier. So this one here, it was in the bag, so once it warms up, this will contour and all this will be better to the console. Then you won't have these wrinkles or anything in there. But that definitely gives it a nice look with these lines right here. It is a little bit of padding, more it's just the foam in the material itself that's helping with that padding. But it definitely has a great feel, good fitment. It matches the lines of the console. And like I mentioned, ignore those wrinkles right there, because as this is on there longer, those will go away. And if you wanted to, you could even heat this up a little bit, and they should just lay down. It was folded in the box, so that's part of the reason. So again, you want to take this one off, simply just pull it back. If you tear this cover, easier and cheaper to replace this than it is that factory cover. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reinstall these and show you the view from the back side and maybe a few overhead shots so you can see what this looks like inside the vehicle. All right, I'm back with the Honda Pilot Elite console cover from Muscology. This is the padded version, to show you what it looks like here in the back section. So you can see they've got a little bit of an opening right here, and this is mainly for when the console opens, that it just contacts the top of that panel right there, where it doesn't actually bunch up or anything. So again, this is the padded version, kind of giving you that overview of what it looks like, a little bit of a closer view there. And let's kind of do an overhead view of that right there for you. So this is from the back seat looking down on top of that console. One thing you notice, and I didn't notice it till I sat back here, is how they've taken this line and kind of brought it back into the seat line right here, which is pretty neat. I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but that looks pretty cool. It makes it look like it was designed that way, meant to go in there. A little bit better job, I would say, than Honda even did, because Honda just got a flat surface on this thing all the way down. So again, this is the padded version. This is how it looks when you open it in the back side here. No real issues there. And like I mentioned, if you have any problems with that cover, you can easily just take this thing right off. If you scratch it, tear it, or anything. More than likely, this is the one my wife's going to go with, and I'll give you one more of those overhead shots of that console cover. All right, here is the non-padded version reinstalled on the 24 Honda Pilot Elite. And you can see this contour line is more covering 100% of the console here in the back. And I'm going to show you a trick that I learned once I put this on, that if you have it overlapping like this, when you open this console, you're going to get some wrinkling right there. But if you tuck that in, I'll show you that in a second. If you tuck that in, you will get a lot less wrinkling. And I think that was pretty much the way this was designed, was to avoid that. I'll come back to that in just a second. But here's kind of the overhead view. This is the non-padded version. And you can see the other neat thing. You see how these two lines, I just noticed that as well sitting back here, look pretty nice, like they match up those two lines on the seat. And there's that, that design line that, in my opinion, looks like it was supposed to kind of match or mimic that style line on the seats, which is pretty neat. All right, so a little bit more of an overhead view with me out of the way. And don't mind like these wrinkles right here, like I mentioned, again, it came out right out of the box. So one thing I would show you is if you tuck this in behind that console piece, it actually goes behind that. You may have to pull the cover to the back a little bit, but it tucks kind of behind that like that. And in my opinion, that's the better way to install this cover, because when you open it, see if I can show you that. When you open it, it follows inside that gap. So you're not having to worry about it wrinkling over the top here. So if you definitely tuck it like that, and I've got it kind of pulled, I would say, as close to this front edge as I can go. And you can see how now when I open it, it does tuck behind that factory piece, not over the top. So you definitely get a lot less wrinkling if you tuck that, basically where that sewn seam is, needs to tuck behind there. And the factory even left you a gap. If I can pull this back, I'll show you there. The factory leaves you a gap right there for even the factory armrest. So I would definitely recommend pull this more to the back and tuck that all the way in. at least until where that sewn stitch line is. So if you look at that now, again, you may have to do a little bit more fitting than I did there. It definitely rolls inside that piece of the console better. And again, as this thing heats up, these other little small wrinkles and stuff will go away. So if you're going to use the non-padded version, I would recommend you tuck that in till about where that seam is right at that edge, and it seems to do a lot better, a lot less wrinkling in that zone. One more overhead shot for you there, and this is what we look like from this back seat view. Both of these, I believe, are great options to protect this factory armrest cover. Not really sure which way we're going yet. My wife's leaning towards that padded cover, though I would mention a little bit more than this one. But both I mentioned are great options. Check it out. I will have links in the description for these products, and I'll also link the console tray and what I call the hidden storage pocket on this review as well. Hopefully this information was useful or helpful for you, and if it was, please subscribe and share. And that's to the point.